So what do I want to talk about? Look, some days you just don't have energy. Some weeks you don't. And I've got a lot going on at work. It's good stuff. I'll be able to talk about it in a while. It's not public yet. So like a lot of things, I don't talk about Amazon until, the stuff is out and you can use it. That's kind of the way we do things. But work's been demanding. And Awesome has helped me come up with a bunch of good topics that needed prep and brain power I just didn't have today. So I thought yesterday, you know what? Why don't I just do the honest topic of what do you do when you don't feel like it? And so let me talk about that. And then you can start putting in your questions for this. And Awesome, by the way, that reminds me, I owe you follow-up on the stuff you talked to me about in Discord. I haven't done that yet. So I'll make a note of that now. Follow up for Awesome. But I'm telling you right now, I haven't done it. But I will. Hey, I reviewed this LinkedIn thing. It just took me a couple days. So normally, as an example, I want to talk about, we'll even get up for this, out of the chair. When you don't have energy, you have a key decision to make, which is, can you get away with it? Can you afford to half-ass what you're working on to some degree in order to survive and get through until you can rest? And how long are you going to have to do that? So the first thing is, all joking aside, I can't help you if you never feel like working. I don't have a solution for that. That's like go see Dr. K or whatever. But most of the people who come here, you do feel like working part of the time. You have energy, you have interest. But everybody has down periods where they're pissed at their boss or they've had a fight with their boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, parents, whatever, or they're just exhausted by work and they need to do something, but they don't feel it. What do you do? Well, the first thing is you have to know when you can half-ass something and when you can cancel. So I decided to purposefully half-ass this show to demonstrate. So let's talk about what that looks like. First, I normally make a drink. This time I grabbed one in a can. I normally do prep. This time I wrote it on a 3x5 card. In 5 minutes before the show, I scribbled down some thoughts. They're literally scribbled. Normally I put on a nice shirt. I decided to leave the Rockstar shirt on today. Why? Because in the end, those things aren't what make the content and you don't come here to see me put on a nice shirt. I do it for you out of a sign of respect and because of the brand I want for the channel. But I can get away with a Rockstar shirt for a day and I can get away with drinking a canned drink. And if I hadn't pointed it out and I'd said, this stuff's awesome, which it actually is, you'd have thought I picked it. Whereas actually I'm like, I'm going to do this because it's easier than making anything. Plus it is pretty good. But the point is, know what is critical and what isn't. That's thing one. Thing two is, how long do you need to do this for? So I need to do this today. I'll feel differently next week. I'll feel differently even tomorrow. And this is the next key point. Often when you don't have energy for something, I came here with no energy for this topic. But as soon as I saw you all gather here and ready to talk and engage and listen and ask me questions, which you better be putting in so that we can talk about it after I run out of my monologue, I figured, okay, once I get started, I'll be into this. And people are expecting me and I don't want to let them down. So I'm not just going to cancel or ghost. But I took a very low energy approach to it. And then here's a key tip. I'm always preparing for my work on a rolling basis. And so when you know you need to coast, have some stuff in the hopper. So why was I able to do a resume review or a LinkedIn review? It's because I recruit those on the show and I tell people, join our Discord. If you want me to do a review of your LinkedIn or your resume, get it to me anonymized. Get me your LinkedIn link. And in some future show, I will get around to doing it. So I reached back out to Anna and said, hey, I'm going to do your LinkedIn tonight. I hope you'll be on. And she jumped on and we were ready to go. But the point is, it was that easy. I didn't have to do a lot of work. I just literally popped up her LinkedIn page and I was ready to go because I can review these on the fly. But because I had done the preparation beforehand, I could half-ass it. If I hadn't done any work to have that, I'd have had to have skipped it. Yeah, no, it's a good off day, right? 140 people watching. And that's there's a lot of reasons for that. But you're right. Whenever I rant, the audience goes up, and I know that. And so my thought was, you know what? I'm just going to let fly. I'm going to come and talk about the topic everybody wants to deal with, which is, how do you not lose ground at work? How do you not disappoint your coworkers or ruin your relationship with your boss when you have a down or off day? How do you do that? And that's the answer. Okay, so what's next? Bottom line, limit the cost of the factor not into it. Years ago, I read a little book of one-line quotes, which I love. You can tell how old it was because it was called Never Confuse a Memo with Reality. Back when people wrote memos on paper, before email, which was before Twitter. So if I updated it, it would say never confuse a tweet with reality. Or never confuse your boss's post in Slack with reality. But that book said some days everything will go your way. Some days everything will go against you. When it's going against you, just try to hold on. That's this advice. You're doing triage like a doctor trying to save lives. When you're having a shitty low energy day, do the triage to figure out, how do I hold on and keep today from being a disaster? Not how do I win? And life is made from holding your ground when you can and then advancing when you can. Not every day has the same amount of progress. Old sailing ships couldn't sail upwind very well, and they couldn't sail upriver very well. Believe it or not, they had this crazy technique to get upriver in a tidal river. You want to talk about slow. The tide would come in and they would float upriver with the tide because it's a tidal river. And then when the tide turned around, they would drop their anchor and hold still as the tide went out. And then when the tide went upriver again, they'd pull up their anchor and float with it. Work can be very like that, where your work is things are going shitty, you just drop the anchor and try to hold on against the flow. And then when there's a break and the bad stuff goes away, or you have more energy, you get a full night of sleep, or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever gets off your back, or your boss, then you make progress upstream and then you drop anchor again. And you might think that's a depressing, slow way to look at things. I said this is the realism show tonight. And if you do that consistently, you get somewhere. And we are talking about when things are hard. Look, when things are great, it goes the other way. You're trying to go downriver, you pull up the anchor, the wind is behind you, you soar downriver. That's the magic loop we talk about all the time. Someone can pop up the magic loop for me in chat. I'm not going to go over it again. But the key point is the magic loop takes energy. It takes emotional energy. It takes time. You're going to go ask your boss how to do better work, what they need you to do, and they're going to give you work. The wrong time to do that is when you're at low energy, because you need to be at your peak to go do all that powerful stuff. So recognize you're going to have periods of high energy and low energy, and that's normal. People's energy is cyclical. It's not, there are these few freakish people that I am not one of who get up on some magical side of the bed every day and like have 1,000, a 1,000 units of energy all the time. And they're like live wires. I don't know who they are or how they get that. Even caffeine won't do that for me. But hopefully that helps. Hold on when it's bad and charge when it's good. Okay, some other things. Get help or ask for help. If you're having a crappy day, go get one of your friends to cover for you. not cover for you, but go get one of your friends and just be honest and say, I am having a lousy day. I need some help. I need some motivation. Can you help me? And then be there to rescue them when they need help. Lean on others. Now, I will say, if you're always low energy, again, I said go to Dr. K's channel. If you can't imagine ever wanting to work and yet you're not a tiger owner and amazingly wealthy, then you need a different kind of help than I give. Please go get that help. But, yeah, or if you have no friends, same thing. Go get help with how to make those friends. And otherwise, there's Oilers and Tiger owners all the time, and they don't have to work. They own tigers and oil. But I rely on my friends for help. So that's why I told all of you, look, I'm going to run out of monologue in about half a 3x5 card. You better have put in some questions, because otherwise I'm going to finish my drink and go on a bike ride. But you guys are going to help me get through this show. And I'm feeling better about it. Actually, you've already helped me a ton. Being with others can give you energy. This is real advice for the stereotypically antisocial people within Twitch chat. Get out, put on your mask in the current time frame, put on your mask. Get out and see a real human being and they will give you energy. If you're isolated because of COVID restrictions, or because you don't normally do that, get out and see real people. And the other thing I will say is, if you're not a normally depressed person, but you find yourself being low energy day after day, change things. You can look up this quote, but Steve Jobs talked about late in his life, when he knew he had pancreatic cancer, but he hadn't admitted it to the public, he had a quote where he said, every day I evaluate, do I like what I'm doing or not? And if too many days in a row go by when I don't like what I'm doing, I change it, no matter what it takes to change it. If you persistently don't like your job, don't like your situation, don't like your life, make some change. Could be a career change. We teach you how to do that here. Could be a role change. Could be a diet change. But don't allow your life to go by unhappily. Find something to change. And I burn out on jobs. I do. Years ago, I overstayed in a job and I became less and less motivated. And I've changed jobs in my career several times, because after doing them for several years, they just weren't challenging enough for me. They weren't fresh enough. They weren't new enough. And I had to try something different. There's nothing wrong with that. Awesome Joy says, seek change. And I completely agree. ASAP Fargon says, go for a run. These are good advice. Let's see what else we got. Oh, one more thing. I will give you a very clear example. If you've heard me here before, I always talk about I try to get up and earn my pay before noon each day. I've preached to you, figure out the most important thing you need to do and do it first thing in the morning, because your energy goes down through the day. Well, what does that mean for streaming? My streaming schedule is completely wrong for that paradigm. If I want to do a good job streaming, I have my streaming at 6 p.m., which is in some ways the worst possible time of the day for me. Because I work all day, I use up all my energy at work, but then I have to stream at 6 rather than 9, 10, 11 because the East Coast is in bed. If I go and have a nice dinner and go for a walk or a run or a bike ride and go do social stuff, and then I come back to the channel at 10 o'clock, yes, a lot of you are up all night and you'll be here, but a lot of the audience for this, the professionals, the parents, the mid-career people who have to go to work the next day will not be. And so I could stream at 10 o'clock Pacific, but I chose 6 to try and reach both the West Coast and the East Coast. The point is, it's the worst possible time of day for me to be high energy. And I've noticed that about my streams. I would do a much better stream at 11 a.m. or actually at 9 p.m. because I could go do whatever to relax for 3 hours and get my energy back after a day of work. So be aware of your own energy cycle and use your best energy on your most important tasks. Now, because I work full time, I can't always stream in the morning or in the early afternoon. That's a compromise I choose to accept because I work for Amazon. But be aware of that problem. And if you have something hard to do, use your best energy on it. And with that, the monologue is done. Thank you for listening. Huge audience. Let's go to the phones, so to speak. Is Kraken rum good? All right, question number 1. Mods, pop that up for me. The answer is all rum is good. I do not think Kraken rum is as good as some other rums. Did I lose a mod? 40, are you there? There it is. All right, so I think I've answered that. But I like all rum, just about. And it turns out I'm not that picky when it comes to rum. Tequila I'm more picky about. Whiskeys I'm more picky about. Rum I always mix with stuff. And it's spiced rum. Put it with a Coke, it's good. Next question. What's your opinion on procrastinating so hard that you essentially cornered yourself? So everybody does this. I think it's a real question. By the way, these questions have shitty votes. There's 130 of you here, and they mostly have almost no votes. And Vocalist wants to know how we do this. So we're first, vote. It is your civic duty. Get in here. There we go. Now people are voting. And Awesome put up the instructions for questions. So Vocalist, use the extent. Now people are voting. See, you just chastise Twitch chat and they do something. What's your new favorite tequila? The closest bottle I can reach. So I don't memorize brands that well. Patron's pretty good stuff. Everybody knows that. But let me go back to the question that was asked. What's your opinion on procrastinating so hard that you essentially cornered yourself? I fear it because once you procrastinate to where you feel cornered, you may end up doing substandard work. So everyone does do this, but it will motivate you perhaps too late. So too late to save yourself from disaster. And so it's a real thing lots of people do. I advise against it. I advise basically procrastinating so hard you corner yourself means you're not in control of your life. You're letting others control you. Like it's a tactic of desperate last resort. So I would advise trying to do something else because you want to be in charge of your life, not have dates essentially, or being cornered. This is like saying I can't do anything without being a trapped rat. That's a pretty sad state of being. All right, so people have done a good job voting on questions. Vote on the ones you actually want me to answer, and I will answer those next. So we'll move on. This is another good one. How do you differentiate what you can half-ass versus not? What's my metric? I think my metric is it really going to matter? You have to decide what is icing and what is cake, what is core, and that comes down to what are you trying to accomplish. So in the example I gave, I've chosen a bunch of rituals for this channel. Wear a nice shirt, have a mixed drink every night, do a resume review. Those are all rituals I impose to decorate the main point, which is engage all of you and try and help you build your careers and be successful. So using this as an example, by coming to this channel, as long as I'm giving you value that helps you build your career, I'm doing what is the core. And the stupid stuff, like, do you really care if I'm wearing a collared shirt or not? Or do you think it's cool? Like, hey, I was there the night he wore the Rockstar shirt. I know that's equivalent. So if we translate that to another part of work, how big are the stakes and what's the key, you can get away with lots of stuff at work as long as you're delivering the core value. And you have to know what that core is. So if a classic example of this is sales. Salespeople get away with all kinds of things, expensive meals, skipping meetings, whatever, as long as they're delivering closed sales contracts, bringing in the money. Conversely, being on time for all the meetings and keeping their expenses low and wearing a suit won't keep them their job if they're not selling. And there's many examples like this. If you're an engineer, if you write really good code, people will put up with a lot, not all, but a lot of eccentric behavior if you produce a lot of good functionality quickly. Conversely, if you're not that good at producing results, they won't care that you're easy to work with. So the metric is half-ass all the decoration that takes up your extra energy. And if you're a student, this is really easy. You think about all the stuff that differentiates the work to get an A versus a B on a project. Some days you're only going to get a B. And so you immediately cut all the stuff that would, everybody's gotten a project assignment that has all these requirements, and you can quickly look at them and be like, okay, what part of this do I need to do to get a solid B and move on? Because I'm not going to get an A on this one. I can't do all the footnotes. I'm going to skip those, but they're only going to take a couple points off. And I can't do, all the reading, but it won't matter because I can fake it. You quickly triage down to what's going to get you a B. Yeah, somebody says 10 Bs or 5 As, right? Let's see. Have you experienced burnout? If so, how did you tackle it? Or should people tackle a burnout? So yeah, burnout's real. I've actually looked this up. Feel free to Google it. I have experienced burnout. I burnt out in an earlier Amazon job. And it's long enough ago I can talk about it. I was leading the Amazon App Store, which is the store we had. It goes on our Kindles to get apps on Kindles as well as on other devices. And I had led it for 5 years, built the team from 0 to 800. And at the end of that, I burnt out. I'd spent 5 years building this store. It had been a wild ride. Hired 800 people, opened offices in Beijing and Bangalore. I burnt out and I needed time off. And what I did was take a 3-month leave of absence because I had the chance to do that. And then I also chose to take the role working with Twitch, which was a smaller team, not as prestigious in the sense of I could have gone from some role managing, I could have gone from managing 800 people. My peer in that role now manages like over 2,000 and works on Alexa. So I could have pursued a bigger role. Instead, I decided to go do something more fun, which was work with Twitch. So how do you manage burnout? You need to get some space. You need a change if you can make it. You need a mental change. And you need something that engages you because people are energized by their emotions. And so either your job is sucking the life from you or it's giving life to you. On most days, I love what I do. And so my job gives me energy, or at least doesn't suck it from me. But that job I'd done for long enough, it was boring and routine. I wasn't surrounded by people that were energizing me anymore, which energizing is a foo-foo word, but they weren't stimulating me. They weren't challenging me. They were just complaining to me. Oh, your goals aren't hit. It's not growing fast enough. And so I needed a change. I needed to get into an environment where I felt new, positive challenge. However, there is a ton of science about burnout. I didn't prepare for this question to be able to quote the science, but burnout has been studied, and you can actually Google what causes burnout, how do you cure burnout. Like a vacation will help, but it's a temporary Band-Aid. You need to find out what is actually What about your situation is systematically demoralizing you, and how do you work your way out of that to something different? Or how do you change that circumstance? And that may be talk to your boss, it may be switch jobs, it may be get on a new project, it may be go work with different coworkers or team up with somebody, but you need to change whatever is not giving you the energy. Um, is it worth the time or effort, or is your happiness worth more? So I chose happiness, right? I chose happiness over pursuing more career. Um, it was a choice, and I'm satisfied with that. But I get that I'm in a situation where I could afford to do that. All right, B Chen says, is it possible burnout isn't from work? Yeah, it can be from what you do outside of work. So burnout is like a psychological factor. It's normally associated with work, but anything that's taxing your psychology, home stress in the form of sick parents, in the form of a difficult relationship, a troublesome child, people get, probably most divorces are a form of burnout. Not all of them, but like long-term divorces where people just say, well, we grew apart. That's what's happening in burnout in a lot of ways, is people are wearing out on something and they're not adapting the relationship to grow. And so it becomes stagnant and uninteresting. Now, again, I'm not a relationship counselor, but I have experienced burnout for sure. I definitely burned out in that role, and you definitely need to tackle it. All right. Next question. What if you don't want to work when you're at high energy? Well, that's what I covered earlier. I can't help you if you never want to work. Like, this is a channel about people who want to work and are able to do better. I can try to help. Why is it you don't want to work when you're at high energy? Can you figure out, do you just hate the idea of working? Do you think you shouldn't have to? That, like work is an evil? If you never want to work, what do you really want to do? And are you sure? Or is it, there's something turns out most people want to work. They want a way to contribute value, not just earn money. They want to do something that they can be good at. So I would say if you don't want to work at high energy, you either have a problem that needs Dr. Kanagia and the stream Healthy Gamer GG. Please go see the doctor. Or you haven't found what energizes you, what engages you. Working hard is fun. I love to work hard. I love to work. And so there's a saying, find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's normally how I feel about this stream. And it's how I feel right now, talking to you, answering questions live and on the fly. When I'm in my zone, this is easy for me. Like, it's not effort. I can do this for fun. It's fun answering you. It's fun trying to help you. It doesn't take any effort. So I would say, if you don't want to work when you're at high energy, you haven't found the right work. And you say, well, the things I want to do, I can't get paid for. Holy smokes, people get paid on Twitch to play video games. You got to be able to find something that you like that you can be paid for. And that brings us to the next question, which has lots of votes. How do I work when I could just play video games? Well, go combine the two. Are we comparing significant others to a boat now? We might. So, how do I work when I could just play video games? Great, you turn playing video games into your job. Go be a game tester. Go be a Twitch streamer. Go be a YouTuber. Go be a level designer. Or figure out how to turn life into your personal video game. So go be someone who gamifies experiences like exercise or workout. Or go figure out how you're going to get a tiger owner to support you while you entertain them with your video game stories. Everything can be made into a career if you want it to. And I realize this question was probably tongue in cheek. because it's just the Twitch stereotype of everybody wants to game. Nobody wants to work. I've taken the question seriously. The fact is, sometimes playing games, that was my point. Sometimes you do just need to take a break. If I had told myself I need to do fancy show prep and find a guest or a slide deck and put on the shirt and be a different person tonight, I would have just canceled the stream. And I didn't want to do that. But the point is, sometimes you do just need to go play some games. Everybody needs downtime, psychological chill time. You're going to have to balance it or starve or vote pro Stalin or whatever. You're going to have to vote for, sufficient basic income that you never have to work. And I still think you'll ultimately find that unsatisfying. But I could be wrong. There might be some 80-year-old gamers who are like, all I ever did in my life was play video games and it was awesome. I never worked. I never, other than contributing to the leaderboard, that was my life. I don't think most people find that enough. But sometimes. Someone in chat, Vocalist, says play games at work. I had a job once where they were essentially keeping me on the bench. They had no work for me. And I started a game company at that job. Because I was so bored, I had to start a company while I was still working. Because, it sounds great to have nothing to do. Here's what my workday was like at that place. Some of you are going to be like, oh my God, that was heaven. Drift in around 9. But if I didn't come in till 10, few people noticed. Drift in around 9. Read some emails, surf the web, till around 11. From 11 to noon, be bored shitless. Around noon, start talking to my coworkers about where to go to lunch. Drag out a long lunch from 12 to 2. 2 o'clock, drift back into the office, talk a little. You got a couple emails. That takes you from like 2 to 3. 3 to 4, surf the web a little bit. 4 o'clock, you're looking at the clock like, God, I really shouldn't leave until at least 5. And I have nothing to do. I'm out. I've surfed everything. That was hell. So Abracadabraxis there, long name. That was hell, at least for me. Longest day ever. And so I had to start a company in my spare time because I couldn't take all the spare time. DT Twitch Talk. I had about a year of that in my previous job. It was dangerous. You won't get promoted or fast-tracked that way. It's true. It's just the people in this channel, the highly motivated people who come here and who want to go somewhere in their career, a week or 2 of that is great. It's decompression. You catch up on email. You catch up with old friends. You play some games. A month or 2 is tolerable. More than 2 months, you got to do something different. Now, I got the chance to try running my own company on the side, which I didn't do that good at. I didn't know what the hell I was doing and had founded it on a lark. And I got bored of it. It was hard work. So I got a different job. But man, did I learn. Okay. What's an experience where you've half-assed it and regretted it afterwards? That is a very good question. Whoever asked this, if you're in chat, now everybody will claim it. That is a good question. What's an experience where you half-assed it and regretted it afterwards? I got to really think about this. It's a good question. Ooh, I've had some speeches where I've done that. Like presentations where oh boy, early in my career, this goes all the way back to my senior year in college. We were doing our big presentation for our final class where we had built a computer out of different microchips, built a processor. And I did almost no prep for this. I figured I can talk about this. Oh, what a disaster. I didn't prepare. I embarrassed myself in front of my friends. I embarrassed myself in front of my classmates. It was a disaster. And so what did I do wrong? I'll try and come up with a more modern example too, because that was a long time ago. But I overestimated my ability to wing it. So the first thing was I didn't realize how much I was half-assing it. Like I knew, but I didn't know how badly. And then I didn't understand the consequences. I didn't think through, specifically, I didn't think through if this doesn't work out, what is it going to matter? And boy, did I bomb it. It was brutal. Like if you could talk to my two sort of teammates on that college project team, they would remember it, I think, and be like, yeah, Ethan really screwed that up. I mean, they looked at me like disappointed. One of my friends is a really nice guy. His name's Martin. And I don't think I've ever seen him look that disappointed. And this is a guy, when he fell asleep in class with his head back, I dropped pieces of paper in his open mouth while he was sleeping. He was pissed, but not disappointed. So this is a really nice guy because he's still my friend, and that was what I did for him. Always got to think long-term consequences. Yeah, that I underestimated. Let me think if I have a more modern example of half-assing something this way. I got to be careful. I have friends in chat who will remind me of some. I'm thinking about public speaking. I haven't done that poorly at that again. Duke of Thought talks about type 3 fun. I've definitely failed at physical tasks where I didn't put in the prep. I wouldn't say I half-assed it, but I went down to Red Rocks years ago with a friend to climb, and we were both rookie climbers. I've done this a bunch of times. I overestimate my climbing ability, and I go on these long trips to go climb something, and I'm not up to it, and we just end up taking a long hike, getting to the objective, getting scared at the height and the exposure and the moves that are required, and going home. So that's a good way to have a different type of disappointment. They all come down to under-preparing, though, right? Like overestimating your ability and underestimating the cost of failure or the likelihood of failure. I'm trying to think of a place where I purposely half-assed it, eyes wide open, though, and it went badly. Probably another place. I've told you all I've done 2,500 interviews. I've interviewed 2,500 people and the number's climbing. A couple times I've done, the most painful mistakes I've made is I've half-assed. Sometimes you're not up for an interview, right? With 2,500 interviews, some of them have fallen at times where I'm really unprepared and low energy. And I've done lousy interviews, and at the end of it, I end up having to make a choice on whether or not to hire someone, and I don't really know the right answer. And so I'm stuck between turning down someone who might be good and I don't know, or maybe hiring them and getting burnt. And I've done both. So that would be the other case where I've really regretted it, is when you hire somebody and you're like, I got suckered because I didn't put in the effort. So pretty much, by the way, anytime you half-ass it and it goes badly, you're going to regret it. The key is, therefore, when can you get away with it? That's what you're trying to figure out, is when can I get away with it? I meant to say this earlier. If you're not going to be able to get away with it with high confidence, don't do it. Like, that's the time to cancel, make an excuse, call off sick. You can't do that very often, but sometimes you have to. So you're trying to make a decision. This is a good point. You're trying to make a decision. Am I going to get away with half-assing this? Can I get through where half an ass is good enough? And I can get away with it. Because if I can't, get out. Reminds me of a story, by the way. Talk about like getting away with it, kind of. God, in high school, I went on a field trip, a Spanish club trip to Cancun, Mexico. No, Acapulco, Mexico. With like my Spanish teacher and a bunch of other kids, students. And we stayed in this cheap shit hotel across from the pretty hotel that was on the beach. So we're like in the Mexican version of Motel 6, like Motel Sies, right? It wasn't even Sies. It was like Motel Cinco. And then there's like the really nice hotel. Well, we went over to the really nice hotel to check it out, and they had a buffet spread out for breakfast. And I decided to just help myself to some of it because it looked like, the buffet is here. It's for all the guests. Well, it wasn't. And as we were trying to leave, they brought me a bill. And I'm like 16, 15, who knows? Well, I just went ahead and wrote in my room number for the hotel across the street and gave it back to them, signed it. And as I was trying to leave again, they caught up to me and said, hey, there's no room 104 in our hotel. Like, 104, what's this? So I got busted a second time. I got busted trying to have free orange juice. I got busted trying to sign the bill and assign it to the room. 0 for 2. So now I'm standing there and I'm like, well, yeah, it's true. This is my room across the street at my hotel there. Truthful. And they're like, well, that's not this hotel. Like, you can't do that. So I had to send a friend back to get money and pay for the OJ. But for a little while, I was imagining, I wonder what Mexican jail is like. So, yeah, Renee's not here. He could probably tell me. Renee's a common guest. And, yeah, I totally tanked that. All right, next question. This question is, definitely at the word limit. And it got 6 votes, so a bunch of you must really want to hear this lifetime story. So let's go for it. I'm currently at a low-paying contracting role at a major bank for the last 8 years, which isn't going anywhere. And as of a few days ago, am a new dad to a beautiful boy. Congratulations. I'm really stressed out because I really want to do something more. I want to do something more, something that taps into my creative side of my brain, but I have to support my family, so I can't risk abandoning this job. I've been raised as a worker and have never been afraid of hard work, but this is uncharted waters and don't know what to do, and I'm afraid. Okay, first, congratulations again. Second, very reasonable to be afraid, and I'll tell a story about that in just a second. Third, don't quit. Not immediately. Form a plan. But you're going to need to sit with your fear. This is a Buddhist idea of realizing fear and you are separate. Yes, you're afraid. You're afraid for good reasons. But that fear, you have a job. You're supporting your family. So separate the fear, look at it and say, why am I afraid? I'm afraid to make a change. Well, what do I need to do to get to where I can confidently make a change? Because if you had an offer from a better place, you probably wouldn't feel afraid. So you feel afraid because you're envisioning that your choices are remain a low-paying contractor or be out of work. But you ought to be able to hunt for a job while you're working. Now, is that going to take extra time? You're in a hard spot. You need to work. You need to be a dad to a newborn. And now you need to add to that, hunt for another job. But you can do that. You can choose to do all three. And here's the point. You might have to decide to slightly half-ass your job. They've kept you 8 years. They're probably not going to fire you tomorrow. Slightly half-ass being a great dad for a little while, because by half-assing that a tiny bit now, you can be a better dad and a better provider later. And so now you have 2 things you're slightly half-assing. You need to take that energy and put it into building your career to have a better job. So what have you done? The question to ask you that's slightly harsh but is good for you is, what have you done to improve your situation? You're listening to this show, you're asking a question. Great, you've done something. Congratulations. You're actually doing something. Have you gotten a good resume together? Have you built a LinkedIn network? Have you identified other employers or what you want to do? Have you started reaching out? You can do all those things a little bit each night. Okay, rock your kids asleep with one hand and network with the other on your phone. Get LinkedIn on there and start networking. You can do this. And that's what I would do. And then talk about the fear to people. Talk about the fear to your closest confidants and tell them, look, I need help with my fear. I'm afraid. I need to talk about why I'm afraid. I need help not being afraid because I need to act on behalf of my family. Tap into the fact Do you want your beautiful boy to think of you as someone who is too afraid to take steps to improve their lives? And I know you don't. There's no dad in the world who says, I want my son, there's no mom in the world to say, dad, I'm a dad. I'm a new dad. There's no new dad in the world who says, I want my son to grow up and come back and see this Twitch chat and know I was afraid to step up and work extra time to improve his life. No dad in the world wants that. So don't be that dad. Use that as your motivation. Imagine I'm going to track down your kid and show him this when he's 15, and you're going to want to say, and see what I did? It changed our whole lives. Imagine that conversation. By the way, Time Lens, thank you for the sub. All right, next question. Geeky Benji, thank you for gifting the lead vitamin. I don't see a lead vitamin here. Oh, there's lead vitamin. Cool. Fun Vasily time. Thank you for subscribing. And y'all have triggered a hype train. Nice. They need to upgrade that functionality some more. We have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes. We're at 94% of level 1. Someone can do this. That's going to cost like 7 bits to push it over. So, is it worth mentioning classes you are auditing on your profile if you're looking for an opportunity to get hands-on experience in that field? Only in that context. Normally mentioning stuff you're auditing would be a complete waste, almost a negative. Geeky, thank you for gifting another sub. You're awesome. I like how people... I'm sad because it was my old team that built what you guys call Scam Train, but I think they know it hasn't been that well. It needs upgrades, and I think they know it. Yeah, and see, it works. Scumsy says, gotta give to the Scam Train. So even though we call it Scam Train, like, isn't that more sad? It's Scam Train, and here you are subbing and gifting into it. Like, it's working against your will. It's perfect. So yeah, mind-blowing, huh? All good scams work. Well, that's true if they're good scams. So the one place, if you are auditing classes, I think it would be fair to say, whatever, auditing finance because I'm looking for an opportunity to work more in finance. Auditing 3 marketing classes to improve my marketing ability because I want to transition. So yes, if you want to get into a new opportunity or a new field, you can mention auditing classes because it falls into a more general category. Mention anything whatsoever proactive that you're doing to get into that job. So auditing is just one example. You could say, I'm doing an internship, I'm reading books, I asked to work on a project. You're just trying to show, no, look, I'm not just whining that I want to be in marketing or I want to be in sales or I want to be in project management. I'm doing something. And DT Twitchlock says, do a project or shadow. It's do anything. I agree that might be greater value, but the point is showcase what you are doing and do more of it. So sure. Okay. All right. Next question. How do you keep energy if you got fired and still have to work for another 2 weeks? Poorly. Jesus. Self-respect. You're at that point, you're working. Well, first, I might not do it, right? I would just leave. Maybe. But if there's some big payoff or whatever, I would go in and do it. What you don't want to do is do stuff that you'll be ashamed of later. This question of, did you half-ass it in a way you regretted? If you're going to go to work or you have to go to work, be a professional. What you want to do is think of your energy. Be energetic enough that people will give you a good referral and they will think of you as, well, yeah, Robert got fired, but he was really actually super professional about it. And so live up to that. And so that's what I would say to do. How do you keep energy if you got fired and have to work another 2 weeks? You got to find the self-respect reason or just get out if you can. But if you, quote unquote, have to because of some payoff or terms or whatever, use that time to network and be really friendly and be really professional and leave a great impression. Next question. Yeah, self-respect and reputation are important, as Danny says. People will remember. Next question. My company has upcoming layoffs in 2 weeks, but I have another guaranteed opportunity that is immediately available for minus 20% salary. Should I jump now? Oh, good question. Number one, can you go ask your management? Can you go ask them and say, look, I have an opportunity? Like, some companies will tell you, whether directly or in code, they will actually go tell you whether or not you should stay. In other words, if someone came to ask me and I couldn't officially reveal that they were being laid off, I'd say, well, you know, that's a tough thing, but these are tough times and you might want to have a secure job. I didn't say you're on the layoff list, but of course I did. So what else would I do? I have another guaranteed opportunity is immediately available. I would try and put off that opportunity. I would try anything I could to find out if I was on the layoff list, and I would try anything I could to string out the other offer. But otherwise, I would, then you have to gamble. If you think the layoff isn't going to hit you, don't do it. If your company's circling the drain and this is the first layoff of many, I would take it and then use that to go somewhere else. All right, I'm getting a level 1 hype train emote. I feel so special. Here we go. Choo choo. I got a hype frog. Like everyone else. There we go. What else we got? Next question. We're going to go into speed run. What are your thoughts on trying to make or shift a career pivot when balancing the potential income hit? Is it better to try and get a bigger company where you can have a variety of opportunities and switch internally, or hold off at the existing job until you get a matching offer? So I believe transferring internally is easier because, look, I've explained this before, but a hiring manager is thinking about a couple things. Can you do the job? Are you a decent person? And if you're internal to the company, they can eliminate the risk, are you a decent person? Or even, are you a hard worker? Because they can see, Samantha, she works hard and she does good work. Yes, she wants to move from marketing to sales, and I don't know if she can make that jump, but at least I know she's a decent person and she works hard. Whereas if you go to another company, they have to take a risk on all of that. You've never done sales before, but they also don't know you and you might be a scumbag. And they don't know if you're nice or fun to work with. And so internally, you reduce risk. Similarly, if you go to a very small companies, you can go and take a marketing job and they probably don't have enough salespeople. And so you can just start doing some of the sales or hanging out with the sales team. And that's another way to switch jobs. But basically, you're trying think in terms of what the hiring manager wants. Hiring managers, people think that hiring managers want to hire a salesperson or whatever. That's not what they want. They want to hire someone to solve their sales problem. And that sales problem, they're afraid that if they hire the wrong person, they not only won't get sales, they'll get some jerk to deal with. And the same is true, fill in anything for sales. Hiring managers have been burnt by bad hires, and so they're looking to reduce risk. They want the lowest risk answer to their problem. And so if you seem risky, they won't hire you. So in a case like this, I would do what I could to reduce risk. I hope that answers your question. Amazonian here, low-level current college student. How do I request from my manager for a problem-solving role? Haha, that's pretty easy. Go to your manager and follow the magic loop. We talk about it all the time. Go see one of my other films with magic loop. Furoki, this has been fun. Welcome into the stream. Glad you're here. Literally go watch the thing. on the magic loop. Did I hire all 800 people directly? Because the magic loop answer, or one of my videos on it, answers your question completely. No, of course not. I have hired probably 800 people personally in my career, or close to it, or been a part of the hiring decision. But for that team, I hired a lot of them. I was involved in hiring all the leaders, but the leaders hired the rest. And in fact, 300 of the people were hired in Bangalore, India on shift work, and I hired none of those. The other 500 I had a lot more to do with. So I don't know your reason for asking this question. I have hired hundreds of people, but not all 800 for that job. And as Danny Mac says to the previous question, is ask how you can help. Okay. Next question. How do you productively get things done in a day without relying on motivation? Skill. The only other way you're going to do things well if you're not motivated is if you're so skilled at it that it's easy. In other words, there are cooks. If you think about most trades, most electricians I know aren't super motivated to wire houses after 15 years. A lot of chefs or cooks, they're not super motivated to make your burger. But they have done it for so long, it's like remote control. Think of it this way. Assuming you can drive a car and you've been doing it a few years, most of the time when you get in the car, are you super motivated to drive? No. But is it hard? You get things done, you get there because it's easy. So you're not half-assing it. You're not like purposely driving while asleep or drunk or whatever. So the way out of this when you're low energy is do the things that are easy for you. That's how you get things productive. So it took me a while to get to this answer. Sorry, I will restate it crisply. You're going to need motivation to do the things in your day that are hard. So when you find yourself on a low energy day, look at all your tasks for the week and pick the ones that are easiest and burn through those, because you can do those without requiring any motivation. Now that does mean that the next day or the next day, all the hard shit's going to be waiting. So this won't work forever. And I told you earlier, I can't miracle solve people who never want to work on the hard stuff. But if you're having a low energy day, go cherry pick all the stuff that's pretty easy for you. Is motivation biological? I don't know. Partly. Like a lot of things, it's going to be partly biological and partly diet and partly, other factors, psychological. So, yeah. Like Furoki's a dev. If coding is easy for him, you do the coding on one day and you work on the big project problems another. Can you give a good website or book that helps with the STAR method? I usually stumble when they're asking a behavioral question. Once I leave the interview ideas pop up that I should have talked about. The thing you need to do there is prep. So you don't need a book you ask a book or a website, but the method is write out your major STAR stories in advance. So that you kind of have them connected in your head. In other words, practice or rehearse answering. Because, look, STAR should be easy. If someone's asking, STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. It's a classic interview method that focuses on those things. And what you should do is, it should be easy. The great thing about the STAR method is all the questions begin with, tell me about a time when you faced a difficult situation with a coworker. You had a project go off the rails. Tell me about a time when you had to make a decision without all the information you wanted. Tell me about a time when you had to reduce your budget. Whatever the question is, you should be talking about your real life. So it should be really easy because you're just storytelling. And all of us do that all the time. So what you need to do here is just catalog what are my most impactful stories and what were the positive results I want to share. And then when people ask you, You think, okay, what story applies to that? Tell the story. And you're very quickly into select story, tell story, select story, tell story. Do it with enthusiasm and a big smile leaning forward. Hired. Works all the time, almost all the time. So that's practice. Practice on a friend. Go get a friend to get a list of common interview questions and have them hit you up with them. And there are tons of lists of star questions, star interview questions. I haven't tried it, but I bet if you Google that, it pops right up. Okay. I think we only have one or two more questions. I was fortunate to getting a great job at a major tech company, but I've been there a year and the role just isn't a good fit. I can either push on, get promoted, which will open up better fits within the company, or look at other companies. But I don't want to be labeled as a job hopper. 2 moves in 2 years. What are your thoughts? Can you talk to your boss? Can you talk to your boss about a move? Can you talk to a different boss about a move? Can you talk magic loop stuff? Can you change the fit, or can you change the role? If you can't do that, you have to ask yourself honestly, can I wait? Can I tough it out? Sometimes it's okay to do a sucky job for a little while, or even a job that just doesn't fit you for a short term if there's a big reward. If none of those things are true, life is too short. You'll make up the lost time by going somewhere else. Now, if you're moving jobs frequently, you do need to be introspective and ask yourself, am I a job hopper because I'm unsatisfied, or I'm hard to please, or there's some issue with me? Am I picky? Am I unreasonable? Am I in the wrong field? So you need to be willing to be introspective. Now, Awesome says it's the norm to jump every 2 to 3 years. It can be, yes, but this person says 2 moves in 2 years, which is every year. That isn't going to totally taint you, but the point is, if you're moving every year for a long series, you got to ask, what's your issue? And so be honest about that, right? You can be honest in private. No one needs to know. But if you look in yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm just I had an employee once tell me I just get bored really easily. So after a year, I'm always bored with a job. He'd been at my job a year. He wasn't producing. We let him go. He told me that's what happened to him. So that's what happened to him. That's reality. Okay. Do you have any advice or anecdotes for solving mental health problems impacting work performance? No. Please go see a mental health professional. I'm sorry for you, but I don't know. I'm not a mental health professional. Get real help. Dr. Kanagia at Healthy Gamer GG on Twitch is awesome for that. Otherwise, it's way outside my expertise. My only advice is seek professional help. Okay, graduate assistant going into my last year of grad school. Any tips? And mods, go ahead and stop approving new questions so we can be done. Graduate assistant going into my last year of grad school. Any tips on setting up for opportunities by graduation time? Yes, network now and go see the show I just did with Susan Timko. It's on Twitch. It hasn't necessarily been posted to YouTube yet. I had the head of a graduate program student resource center on. We did 90 minutes on how to use your student employment center. Go watch that interview and do what we talked about. You have a 90-minute gift lecture on exactly this topic. Okay. I just landed an internship after a dev boot camp, but my anxiety or imposter syndrome is at an all-time high. I don't doubt it. That seems very realistic. Do you have any advice as to the expectations you would have for interns? Sure. We expect interns to contribute and to learn and to do their best to be helpful, but we do expect them to deliver work. And so as an intern, I would try to do 2 things in the first week. Find any way you possibly can to do something of value, and then ask your manager or your onboarding buddy or whatever, what is the best way I can quickly learn here? How can I help you? And where can I put in extra time to learn? And so those are the 2 things I would do. If there is an intern advisor or former intern, or someone you can talk to, I would really talk to them and then realize imposter syndrome is a feeling. So going back to something I said early in the show, feelings change. I am not a Buddhist, but the Buddhists have a great idea, which is everything is impermanent, including how you feel. Look at why you feel like an imposter or why you have anxiety and realize if I'm willing to address that feeling and sit with it, I don't have to medicate it. I can say, yes, I'm anxious. I acknowledge I'm anxious. I know I'm anxious. I'm going to wait it out and I'm going to do my job anyway, and it can be easier. But I would say, remember, you did get hired for a reason. Go try and fulfill that reason. And the main thing we're looking for from interns is, again, what I said earlier, are they easy to work with and can they learn and can they deliver some kind of value? No one's expecting you to be an amazing rock star after a dev boot camp in an internship. They're expecting you to be a decent human being who shows you can work hard and learn. You can do that. And so with that, we come to the end of a great show that I thought had a big chance of being a shitty show. So this shows you how half-assing can work out, how the topic of when you don't want to work can turn into when you do want to work. And it also shows how a lot of times wanting to goes to this feeling. As soon as I started doing it, I felt better. Often the hardest thing about a task is starting the task. And so you come in and you start, and then it gets better. Starting is the hard part. And so you have been a fantastic audience. Thank you for coming. It's been a ton of fun. We've had a lot of subs. We had a hype train, which you guys called a scam train and still participated in. We had fun. I ranted. We helped Anna with her LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does with it. At the same time, we had a little bit of fun trashing it because that's what we do. We help by trashing. This has been a really fun evening. I am going on vacation with my family next week, so I will probably not do a show next week, or I will do it live on the road from somewhere. We'll see. That'll be a surprise. If you see a show come up off my phone, possibly even while I'm driving, not while I'm driving, while I'm riding, I'll do a live rolling show maybe. Depends on cell coverage. Going back to Motel Cinco. It's funny. I love to do corny accents, and now everybody would take them as like bigoted or something. It's too bad because my bad Spanish accent is like my bad, I have a bad Russian accent. I have a bad Spanish accent. I have a bad Scottish accent. And I can't do any of them. At least not right now. Too much no fun. And 40 Pink Dragons likes none of them. No, I don't speak Russian. I imitate Russians speaking English really badly. I will do one part of that accent because it's super funny. Years and years ago, we had a carpenter come and work on our house. And I asked him about Russia. And without the slightest trace of irony, he said to me, and in this case I quote pretty well, he said, "How you know I'm Russian?" Yeah, his name was Vlad. He was great. He said, "Most people think I'm German." "How you know I'm Russian?" No idea. Big, tall, blonde, blue eyes, took a wild guess. So yeah, he was fun. He was a good carpenter. All right. So with that, I'm going to call it a good evening. Thank you all. This has been fantastic fun. We will be back soon. Maybe a surprise live stream. And, you meant going back to Hotel Cinco. Yeah. All right. Anyway, talk to you all later. Have a great night. Be good, be strong, move your careers forward, and join our Discord. Talk to you soon. Bye.